Clara stepped through the front door of her apartment, released from the hospital 2 days earlier than expected. She was still sore, still healing, but eager to surprise Nathan. She pictured his face lighting up, his arms wrapping around her, the two of them curled on the couch like nothing had changed. But something had. As she moved down the hallway toward their bedroom, a soft laugh echoed behind the cracked door. When she pushed it open, the sight stopped her cold. Nathan, another woman, tangled in the sheets of their shared bed. His face relaxed, hers flushed. Clara stood frozen, her breath caught. Nathan's eyes met hers, and panic replaced pleasure. The woman gasped, but Clara didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply turned around and walked out, the door clicking softly behind her. This isn't a story of confrontation, it's a story of silent revenge, and a woman who takes everything back. Clara was 35 years old and had spent the past decade building a quiet, stable life. She worked as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized publishing firm and lived in a tidy apartment in the heart of the city. She and her husband Nathan had been married for 7 years. On paper, their relationship looked solid, routine, dependable, and occasionally affectionate. Nathan was a finance professional, always composed, polished, and slightly removed. Clara had always been the one who remembered birthdays, kept the apartment warm and lived in, and made their life feel like a partnership. She was the heart, Nathan was the head. While Nathan handled most of their financial decisions, investments, credit cards, mortgage payments, Clara trusted him. He had a calm voice and a reassuring presence. They weren't romantic like they used to be, but Clara assumed that was just part of growing older together. She didn't question the occasional distance. She filled the gaps with memories, with hope, with patience. But her surgery changed everything. It was minor, outpatient, but draining. She had been admitted for observation longer than expected. For 4 days, she lay in a hospital bed, drowsy from medication, comforted only by the glow of her phone screen and the daily calls from her best friend Rachel. Rachel had been Clara's anchor since college. Now a respected family lawyer, Rachel checked in every day during Clara's recovery, asking about meals, pain levels, offering updates on her own chaotic caseload to distract her. Clara felt grateful. Those check-ins reminded her that someone still cared. On the 4th morning, Clara's doctor smiled and said, "You're healing beautifully. We're releasing you early." It felt like a small miracle. Clara didn't call Nathan to tell him. She wanted to surprise him. She imagined the glow in his eyes, the joy of seeing her home early. She wanted to return to the comfort of her apartment, the soft couch, her favorite candle burning, the comfort of his arms. She pictured them sharing a glass of wine and reconnecting after the stress of her hospital stay. Instead, she walked into a nightmare. Clara opened the front door and was greeted by silence. Nathan usually worked from home, and the soft hum of typing or a phone call would greet her. Not today. The living room showed signs of him, papers scattered, coffee half finished, his laptop open. But he wasn't there. A quiet unease settled into her chest. She moved down the hallway. The bedroom door was ajar, laughter. A woman's giggle. Then Nathan's voice. And then she saw them. Clara didn't speak. She didn't cry. She simply turned, left the apartment, and walked down the street until her hand found her phone. She called Rachel. Her voice didn't break until Rachel answered. "I need to come over," she said. "Of course," Rachel replied. "I'm home. Come now." Rachel met Clara at the door with open arms. Clara collapsed into her embrace, her body trembling. Rachel led her inside, sat her on the couch, and handed her a warm mug of tea. The apartment was filled with light, safety, and calm. Clara sipped the tea in silence, her hand shaking. Minutes passed. Then Clara began to speak. She described the soft laugh, the open door, the sight of Nathan's bare back, the woman's... Rachel listened without interrupting. Her lawyer's mind cataloged the details. Her friend's heart hurt. When Clara finished, her voice raw, Rachel asked one question. "What do you want to do next?" Clara stared down at the mug. Then she looked up and whispered, "I want to take everything back." Rachel leaned forward, her voice low and deliberate. Clara, I need you to understand something. Nathan didn't just cheat on you. He's been preparing to financially gut you. Clara stared at her, confused. Rachel continued. He's been seeing a lawyer. Quietly. From what I've pieced together through mutual contacts, he planned to file for divorce the moment you finished paying off the mortgage. Clara's stomach dropped. But the apartment is in my name, Rachel said. But that wouldn't stop him from claiming half of its value under marital property laws, especially if he could prove you both contributed. But you've been paying the majority of it, haven't you? Clara nodded slowly. Every bonus check, every overtime hour, every promotion, she had funneled it into their home. Their home. Or so she thought. Rachel's expression darkened. He was waiting for you to finish paying it off so he could take half and walk away clean. It's a move I've seen before. The betrayal deepened in Clara's chest like a weight. Her surgery, her vulnerability, it had all been an opportunity for him. The act now, Rachel said, while he still thinks you're broken. The next day, Clara changed the locks. She contacted her bank and froze the joint accounts. She closed her credit cards, opened a new one in her name, and removed Nathan from every login, every bill, every access point he once had. She packed his things, every shirt, every shoe, every suit, and left them in neat, zipped luggage by the door. She called a locksmith and had them install new high-security locks. By sunset, the apartment was quiet again. Clara sat on the couch with Rachel, sipping tea, her body still sore, but her mind razor-sharp. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. The plan was in motion. At 7:12 p.m., the old key rattled in the front door. Nothing. Another rattle. Then a knock. Clara? Babe? Clara stood behind the peephole. Her heart thumped, but her face was calm. The knocking turned to pounding. I know you're in there. We need to talk. No answer. He banged again. Clara, this is ridiculous. Open the door. Then he saw them. His bags, lined up outside the door, like a message. He froze. What the hell is this? His voice rose. First confusion, then rage. Clara stood silent, still behind the door. She watched him. His mask cracked, first disbelief, then humiliation, then panic. He pulled out his phone, calling her, straight to voicemail. He pounded the door again, shouting. Neighbors peeked through doors. Claire didn't move. She let it all unfold. Nathan's control, his smug confidence, shattered. He was locked out of the home he planned to steal. The woman he expected to collapse had quietly, surgically removed him. And Clara? She didn't shed a single tear. Not tonight. Because this was only the beginning. 2 days after changing the locks, Clara received a message from an old mutual friend. It was simple. Hey, I didn't want to get involved, but I thought you should know. Nathan's been telling people the divorce was already in motion before your surgery. Said it was just paperwork left. Clara stared at her phone. Another message came, then another. People who'd seen Nathan with Jessica. People who'd overheard him in bars or at dinner parties, saying the apartment was as good as his, claiming Clara was too emotionally fragile to fight back. One even said he joked that Jessica would move in before Clara was out. The sting of betrayal felt fresh again, but this time, it ignited something sharper. Not sadness, not confusion, clarity. Nathan hadn't just cheated. He'd been staging an entire exit strategy, manipulating both her and Jessica with tailored lies. With Clara, it was tenderness and promises. With Jessica, it was manipulation and timelines. He'd been buying time on both ends, playing the doting husband, and the ready-to-divorce boyfriend depending on the room he was in. Clara called Rachel. "I want the divorce filed. Now. Today." Rachel didn't hesitate. "Come in. I've already started drafting documents." When Clara arrived at Rachel's office, the lights were dim, the sky outside turning gray. Rain tapped lightly against the windows as Rachel spread the documents across her desk, pages of legal precision protecting everything Clara had built. Onion waved. Clara earned more. Property Clara's name alone. Mortgage history proof attached. Joint accounts, closed. Retirement funds, traced and isolated. Everything had been accounted for. No cracks Nathan could slip through. Clara read every line, slowly, steadily, her eyes sharp with purpose. Rachel watched her closely. "Are you ready?" she asked. Clara nodded once. "I'm not afraid of him anymore." She signed the last page, her signature clean and bold. Rachel gathered the papers and stood. "We'll file this right now. I'll walk it over myself." Clara exhaled deeply. It was done. By the time she got home that evening, her phone had exploded with notifications, dozens of missed calls, voicemails, and frantic texts. Nathan was unraveling. The first few messages were apologetic, full of fake vulnerability. He said he made a mistake, that he still loved her, that Jessica meant nothing. Then, just hours later, the tone shifted. He accused her of being cruel, of humiliating him, of betraying him. The audacity made her laugh, quietly, in the darkened kitchen. She didn't listen to a single voicemail. She deleted them without opening. She didn't respond to a single text. She blocked his number. Then she turned off her phone and poured herself a glass of wine. The apartment was quiet. Outside the rain thickened, but inside, Clara felt lighter. This wasn't silence born from fear. It was strategic. It was powerful. She had no intention of explaining herself to the man who'd been planning her downfall behind closed doors. She'd already spoken. With her actions. 3 days after filing for divorce, Rachel called Clara with a tone that was quiet but charged. "I found something," she said. "You're going to want to sit down." Clara was already seated in her new apartment, a soft gray throw wrapped around her shoulders. The silence was comforting now, not oppressive. She gripped her mug of tea a little tighter. Rachel continued. "Nathan was funneling money, small amounts, just under reporting thresholds, transferred from your joint account to what looked like routine business expenses, but we traced the payments. They went to a shell company, one registered under Jessica's name." Clara's breath caught. "I was using your money," Rachel said carefully, "to start a life with her." The words hit like a slow punch. Clara didn't respond right away. Her mind was already spiraling through years of moments of common casual lies, missing receipts, vague explanations about work dinners, or last-month investments. She had believed him, trusted him. All of it had been a mirage. "Cumish?" she asked quietly. "About 18,000, over the last 5 months, spread thin across multiple transfers." Clara nodded slowly, as if each movement anchored her to the reality she was living in. Not just a cheating husband, not just emotional betrayal. This was financial warfare. Theft, deceit layered over intimacy. A man who'd looked her in the eyes each morning while stealing from the very life they'd built together. Rachel spoke again. "We have documentation. Every wire, every date. I've already prepared the fraud clause for court." Clara didn't say much. She thanked Rachel and hung up. Then she sat very still. It wasn't anger that came first. It was sadness. A different kind. Not for Nathan, but for the woman she had been. The woman who used to believe her husband had just forgotten her birthday because he was busy. Who smiled through his backhanded compliments. who let him handle the bills because he said it was easier that way, who handed over her trust without ever realizing it was being weaponized. She remembered one afternoon 6 years ago. She had wanted to invest in a small creative business, a design shop with her friend. Nathan had laughed, told her they needed to be practical, that it was too risky. She dropped the idea. They went to dinner. She told herself it was love. Now she saw it clearly. It was about control. He hadn't just taken money. He'd taken years of her confidence, her voice, her independence. And he'd done it with a smile. The tears came suddenly, not violent, not explosive, but steady. She cried for the woman who had bent herself in half trying to hold up a marriage that was already hollow. For every quiet compromise, every red flag she had folded into origami and tucked in a drawer. When she was done, she wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweater. Her chest felt sore, but her vision was clear. That version of her, the one who believed in Nathan, who needed his approval, who excused his absences, she was gone. Clara stood up and walked to the window. She wasn't crying for Nathan. She wasn't crying for what they had. She was mourning the death of her own innocence. And in its place, something fierce was beginning to grow. Rachel didn't waste a minute. The morning after Clara confirmed she was ready, Rachel launched the counterattack. She began with the property. Clara's name was on the deed. Her income had funded over 80% of the mortgage, and she had receipts, literal ones, of every major payment, down to repairs and maintenance. Rachel filed a motion to secure sole ownership of the apartment. The law was clear. Nathan had no legal claim. Then came the financial accounts. Rachel's team traced Nathan's hidden transactions to shell corporations and business accounts he thought were invisible. With the help of forensic accountants, they built a report showing not only the theft of funds, but intent to defraud. Rachel filed to freeze those accounts, pending court review. Next, a restraining order. Clara wasn't afraid Nathan would harm her physically, but emotionally she wanted peace. Rachel drafted a motion that blocked all contact, calls, texts, emails. When Clara signed the document, her hand didn't shake. But Rachel wasn't finished. She drafted a second motion, this one seeking damages for spousal fraud and emotional distress. She attached the financial trail, screenshots of messages, and a transcript of Nathan's voice on voicemail, his rants, his arrogance, his cruel laughter. Clara reviewed the file page by page. No dramatics, no tears, just quiet, focused resolve. That same afternoon, Nathan stormed into Rachel's office unannounced. The receptionist didn't flinch. "I need to talk to Clara," he barked. "Where is she?" The receptionist looked up calmly and said, "You've been served. All communication must go through her legal counsel." Nathan slammed the door on his way out. Clara never heard about the visit directly. Rachel sent a quick update. "Handled. He's losing it." Clara was already prepared. She had moved her remaining valuables into a safe deposit box, changed all her passwords, and secured her digital footprint. She even had her locks upgraded. Again. Later that week, Clara received a text from an unknown number. It was Jessica. She wrote, "I just found out you're his wife. I had no idea. He told me you were divorced. I'm so sorry." Clara stared at the screen. She felt nothing. Not anger, not pity, just tired. She typed back, "You're not the first. You won't be the last." Jessica responded with a long message, apologizing again. Clara didn't read it. She blocked the number and moved on. 3 days later, Nathan was served at work. It happened in the lobby of his firm, during lunch rush. Witnesses said he turned bright red, then white, then stormed out without a word. Clara didn't need to see it to know it was effective. Her silence was louder than any scream. That night, Clara sat with Rachel, going over the final steps. Court dates were scheduled. Her case was strong enough. But she hadn't been passive. She had been patient. And now, every calculated move landed like a strike. Legally, cleanly, permanently. Nathan tried calling from a blocked number. He left a voicemail, filled with bitterness. "You ruined everything." Clara listened once, then deleted it. She didn't respond. She never saw him again. And she didn't need to. Her revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation in a hallway or a public scream. It was measured. It was strategic. It was the quiet filing of motions, the steady freeze of accounts, the weight of truth bearing down in court. It was Clara, walking through her apartment, barefoot on the hardwood floor, finally knowing that every inch of it was hers. Justice didn't need rage. It needed clarity, action, and the courage to walk away before the explosion. Nathan tried to break her. But in the end, it was his own arrogance that brought him down. The divorce proceedings moved swiftly, exactly as Rachel predicted. With airtight filings, clear documentation, and Nathan's behavior captured in text and voicemail, the judge had little patience for games. In the hearing, Nathan's attempted to challenge Clara's claim to the apartment, suggesting they had built a life together, and he deserved a share. But Rachel presented a breakdown of payments, all traced to Clara's income. She outlined the fraud, the emotional distress, and the carefully hidden transfers. The judge reviewed the evidence and gave a firm ruling. Clara was granted sole ownership of the apartment. Nathan was denied any alimony. He was ordered to pay half of Clara's legal fees, citing financial misconduct and an attempt to manipulate the divorce process for personal gain. The court recognized the betrayal not just as emotional, but as calculated deception. Clara didn't smile in the courtroom. She just nodded. It wasn't satisfaction she felt. It was closure. A month later, Clara listed the apartment. She didn't want the memories. She didn't want to wake up each morning and see the same ceiling she had once stared at in heartbreak. When it sold, she used the profit to move across town. Her new place was nothing like the old one. It was modern, with clean lines and bursts of color, a soft emerald couch, warm wood floors, art that made her smile. No photos of the past, only the present and the future. She bought it in her name, only her name. The messages from Nathan continued at first. He shifted his tone. No more anger. Now he tried guilt, nostalgia, and finally, regret. He wrote long emails about their good times, about how things got complicated. He said he missed her, that he didn't know what he was thinking, that maybe we could talk. Clara didn't reply. She didn't need to scream or block him or send back one-liners. Her silence was intentional. It wasn't avoidance, it was release. He didn't deserve access to her peace. Her strength wasn't in getting the last word. It was in knowing she no longer owed him one. 2 weeks after the move, Rachel gathered Clara's closest friends for a small housewarming. There were candles, laughter, a homemade charcuterie board. Clara wore a blue dress that brought out the color in her eyes and made her feel like herself again. When Rachel clinked her glass and handed her the floor, Clara took a breath. She held her wine glass and said, "Sometimes silence isn't surrender, it's power." There was a pause, and then a round of cheers, not loud or forced, just full of warmth. Clara smiled, not because she was trying to prove she was okay, but because she actually was. The apartment, the lawsuit, the restraining order, those were steps. But this moment, this was her resolution. Her chapter with Nathan was done. There was no epilogue, no what-ifs. Just a clean end and a brighter beginning. She walked through her new space that night, barefoot and quiet. Her home no longer carried echoes of betrayal. Just light, just peace, just her. Months passed, and with them came the quiet healing Clara hadn't even known she needed. Her new apartment slowly became a reflection of her spirit. Sunlight streamed through the wide windows each morning, touching the plants she'd carefully nurtured. Ferns, succulents, a tall fiddle-leaf fig in the corner that she named Grace. Every soft rug underfoot, every pillow on the couch, every famed print was chosen by her, for her. There were no compromises now, no double-checking with someone else's preferences. It was her space, her energy, her sanctuary. Clara's mornings were peaceful. She made her coffee slowly, without rushing to meet anyone else's expectations. Sometimes she'd sit on her balcony, wrapped in a blanket, journaling thoughts that used to stay buried. She no longer cried when writing. Instead, her words were full of clarity, gratitude, and resilience. She walked every evening through her neighborhood, watching the sunset, letting her breath settle into a rhythm. For the first time in years, she slept through the night. Rachel suggested she join a support group for women navigating life after betrayal. Clara hesitated at first, but one Thursday evening, she walked into a room filled with strangers and stories. When it was her turn to speak, she stood, hands shaking, and told them everything. The affair, the stolen money, the lies. She chose instead of a dramatic scene. When she finished, the room applauded. That night, she felt lighter. In the months that followed, Clara grew into a version of herself that once felt out of reach. She rediscovered old hobbies. She baked on weekends, tried watercolor painting, and read novels late into the night. Her laughter came easier. Her boundaries became clearer. And eventually, she opened her heart again. She met Michael at a neighborhood bookshop. Their first conversation started over a shared favorite author and ended with coffee and a walk. He was gentle, kind, thoughtful in a way that felt unfamiliar but deeply welcome. He didn't try to fix. He listened. He asked questions and let silence exist without pressure. As their connection grew, Clara told him the truth, every difficult detail. She expected flinching, discomfort, maybe distance. But Michael didn't blink. He nodded, told her hand, told her she was brave, that she deserved the life she was building. With him, there were no secrets, no manipulation, no walking on eggshells. For the first time, Clara felt truly seen, not as someone broken, but as someone strong, someone who had walked through fire and emerged, not burned, but forged. Her scars weren't shameful, they were proof. Each day wasn't perfect. Healing never was. But now, when Clara looked in the mirror, she didn't see a woman abandoned. She saw a woman who chose herself. And that made all the difference. Have you ever caught someone in the act and stayed silent, not because you were weak, but because you were done? Clara's story is a testament to the quiet strength so many women carry. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't waste her energy arguing with a man who had already made his choice. She didn't burn everything down to feel powerful. Instead, she built something new. She planned. She protected herself. She walked away with her dignity intact and her future secure. Clara's silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. Moshikayako Mispacity Machine. If you've ever been betrayed, manipulated, or underestimated, know this. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it packs boxes, locks doors, files papers, and builds a new life in absolute unstoppable silence. You don't need to win the argument to win your life back. You just need to decide you deserve better, and act accordingly. So tell us, have you ever chosen peace over chaos? Have you ever turned betrayal into a breakthrough? Leave your story in the comments. Like and subscribe for more true stories of justice, betrayal, and resilience here at Veiled Fury, where silence speaks louder than rage. And every woman finds her voice.